Tell us, what's changed, Arthur?
I'll tell you what's changed. We're not alone anymore. That's what we should be talking about.
I got the sneaking suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
It's okay, baby. Let's give the people what they want. I want to see the real you.
Welcome, everybody that happens to be here live. And for those of you that are catching this afterwards, we appreciate you being here so darn much. You don't even know it. Thank you to the Upside Dan for whipping up that intro, though something tells me Warner Brothers has already copyright struck us. If they haven't, then I guess there is a God. With that being said, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Cinema Squad's chat, at least those of us that could make it, about Joker. Folie, or something like that. I'm trying to, at least throw a little flair on there because something tells me, just, is it Folie Deux? Folie Deux? Maybe? I don't know. All right, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this started here. Guys, there's a lot to talk about with this film. It's got a lot of mixed emotions left within all of us for sure. Probably some more negative, strictly, than mixed. But, I think it's fair that we give a little bit of respect to the positives that may exist within this. So let's go ahead and start talking about some stuff. Of course, as I was hinting at, it's not just me here. I do have two other members of the Cinema Squad with me. So let's bring them on out. First and foremost, we happen to have the man, the myth, the legend himself, straight up from the upside. That'd be Dan.
Hey, Jace. Hey, everyone.
What's going on, Dan? Good timing with that. I don't actually have control over entering you into this, so that was perfect, on the money. You would have sworn that I had access myself.
I thought you were.
How you doing, man? You ready to talk about this movie?
Yes, I've been excited, as you know. Like I've been not pestering, but talking to you for days that I really want to talk about it. But yeah, so I've been really excited to talk about this film.
Well, that makes me all the more curious as to what it is that you have to say, because we'll just go ahead and mention this real quick, are the only one that saw it twice. So that's just at least that much more curious as far as an additional layer of perspective there, because at least I always feel like I kind of look at things a little bit differently when I see it multiple times. And thank you for bearing with it again. Right, just shows how much you are dedicated to your 40X craft. If anybody doesn't happen to go ahead and already follow Dan for their 40X needs, do so. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say 40X, then all the more, go over to his channel, check him out, show him some love, the Upside Dan. All right. We also happen to have with us another member of the Cinema Squad, man of movies, who was kind enough to make an appearance on his wife's birthday. So let's go ahead and bring the man on out.
What is going, everybody? I am so happy to be here. Even though it's my wife's birthday, we got some time together to talk about this movie, which I've been calling Folie Deux. And I was on my phone, and we are three, so we are Folie
Trois?
Yeah.
Hey, my half a year of French from 6th grade is paying off, everybody.
Folie à toi. Look at you, Jace. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. This is a movie that is so divisive. And I think that our thoughts may line up, but nonetheless, this won't just purely be a sort of bashing fest more than it is going to be us kind of analyzing what we liked and didn't like.
Yes, exactly. Right. A good analysis of our opinions there. And though it shouldn't need to be said, emphasis on our opinions, right? It's just what we think. If you happen to love this movie and disagree with some of the things that we may end up saying, right? That's okay. Then I'm glad that you liked it. All right. And if you feel any other way, throw your thoughts into the comments. We'd really appreciate as far as to see the additional thoughts and conversation that's going on out there, because yeah, this is one that causes a lot of it for sure. Now, in a way, that's kind of nice, right? Like it's kind of almost a perk, if you will, to be able to walk away from something and be able to have a conversation.
Oh yeah.
But what do you guys think? I know this is actually something that, forgive me, because it's not even directly in the movie itself. I just more so mean as a general question. Would you rather watch something and walk away just kind of like completely meh? All right, I saw something. Okay, let's go. What are we doing after this? Right? We're going to get something to eat. Or would you rather have something like this where you can't help but be left with thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent?
100% the latter. I would 1000% watch this movie over some of Marvel's stuff lately, okay? For the
That's
sake of discussion, for the sake of thought-provoking conversation, you know?
Yeah, that's sadly exactly also what I was imagining in my head. Because the first thing, I'm not kidding, that came to my mind was the Marvels.
Same.
Right.
Same.
So after seeing
No
the Marvels,
kidding.
it's kind of like, okay, what are we doing next?
Yeah, this was movie the movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, movie. Remember when they used to make that stuff? The date movie, this movie.
The parodies, the spoofs, right?
Yeah. It's kind of almost along those lines, except it's sad that it isn't a parody. But yeah,
Right.
this one, even though it definitely leaves us with mixed, perhaps, emotions. Again, it's nice to have something to converse about so much. I mean, Dan, do you feel similarly?
Yes, definitely. Because I mean, as I said, I love talking about this, even if I didn't like, I don't come out of the Marvel movies anymore, really, unfortunately, for the most part, wanting to discuss and analyze and all that. But I wanted to talk to this about anyone that would listen.
Yeah. Well, you got some people that are willing to listen. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, at least when it comes to this, it's almost tempting, guys, to break this down piece by piece. And I don't want to actually do a walkthrough of the film, but I would like to start at the beginning. Okay. I actually, so funny story, showed up to my theater just a little bit late, just a little bit. And
shame.
I know. Trust me, I'm not kidding. As I walked in and heard that the movie was already playing, instantly in my head, I'm just like, son of a bitch, might as well leave, come back at a different time. Because you don't know how much you've missed, right? Like I know based on time, it could only be so long, but anyway. So I actually had to it's great. It's amazing how the internet works. It just so happens that, whether it was supposed to be there or not, there is a version of that online where I was able to go ahead and catch the beginning.
Very nice.
Guys, before I say anything, I would almost like to hear your unfiltered opinion as far as that beginning animation to open the film, right? What was like your interpretation and takeaway from that?
Do you want interpretation, takeaway, or do you want initial reaction?
If there's a way of throwing all the above.
Right. My initial reaction was, is this a short before the movie? Or is this part of the movie? So that was my initial reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I will say that as someone who loves animation, I didn't mind the animation. I understood what they were trying to do with it. This is a spoiler stream. This has to do with the whole theme of identity, the intricacies of identity, primarily with Arthur Fleck. And you kind of get that with him battling his shadow, Joker. Okay, I get it. You could argue whether it was kind of over blatant, if that's even a word, kind of on the nose. But it was to get you ready on what the film was supposedly gonna be touching on. It wasn't nuanced, but it was something to like get me on track to where they were trying to get me toward. Now we'll get into this later. Whether or not they succeeded in what they started is another issue. Right. I didn't mind it though. I quite liked it. Also, for those people that might not know, there's a really famous director, animated director. He directed this film called what's it called? It's this French animated film that was nominated for Best Animated Film, and he came on board to direct just that little segment.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
So that wasn't even directed by Todd Phillips.
I love little trivial stuff like that. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I like that it has that extra little touch, right? Gives you a deeper level of appreciation. And so,
Correct. Yeah.
okay, fair enough. Again, without me saying anything whatsoever, Dan, I want to throw it over to you and just kind of ask same thing. What was your takeaway from it?
So I didn't expect it. Some people, I guess, knew that it was going to be an animated opening beforehand. I didn't expect that. So I thought it was a little odd. But I mean, I thought it was well done. The animation was cool. It was fun enough. But I thought it was a weird way to start this movie. But I guess at the same time, it does fit the character. And again, with like John said, is it going to tie in towards the end? We'll get to that. But I just thought it was like odd but cool, I guess.
Okay, that's fair. The reason I wanted to start there is because I feel like it is a very unique and interesting way to open up the film. I personally don't mind it whatsoever in the sense of like I like the animation style. I'm totally okay with like that as a concept.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, and I don't want to take full credit for this, I can't remember who, but it was another YouTuber, and I heard them say this, and it really like spoke to me, if you will. Like as soon as I heard that, it was like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. Someone mentioned about how they were like, I like the opening animation. I don't agree with it. Okay.
Oh, I'm with you. Considering what it ends up becoming. Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it.
And so that's okay. So especially with where it goes, right? But even without knowing where the second film's going or without seeing the rest of it, I don't agree with it because it depicts the first film inaccurately. I rewatched the first one the day before going to see this one, and I can tell you without a doubt in my mind, at no point did I ever feel as though I bet he's got split personality disorder.
Right.
Not a single moment. As a matter of fact, it seems like he's more becoming himself. Like he's evolving as a person, but not, oh my gosh, there's this other person, and then it's like, but he's actually still just Arthur. No, he was Arthur the whole time. This is just Arthur 2.0 by the time we reach the end of the first one. So to all of a sudden depict it in a way, like to start the film by saying, hey, remember all those things from the first one? Well, it was actually this like shadow of him that, the shadow took over and did all this bad stuff. And then Arthur just got blamed for it all. I get that's what they end up trying to do with the film, right? Like the court hearing is based off of the defense of Arthur is that it's the split personality case. But again, like that would actually be believable from an audience's perspective if you would have given us anything pointing towards that in the first film. And nothing was alluding to that direction. So, I mean, at least, do you guys, I'm curious, do you agree as far as with me kind of throwing it out there? Like, does that make sense?
Dude, it makes total sense, and I'm in total agreement with it. If anything, the only thing I disagree on is in pinpointing that anybody would just disagree with the animated short. Why do I say this? I say this because to disagree with the animated short is to disagree with the entire movie. Because what the short does is kind of just tell you, hey, hi, thanks for buying a ticket. This is what the next 2 hours and 20 minutes is going to be, by the way. Right. So it's like it's just getting you ready for what the movie is. And you mentioned it, right? You mentioned it, Jace, but that is what this movie is. It's trying to redo what was not even established in the last movie.
No, it almost feels like, how this in itself is an Elseworld story?
Yeah.
Right? Like even the first, this feels like an Elseworld, right? Like this almost feels like, hey, do you want to see a slightly different version of what would have happened to Joker afterward?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I don't believe this is the legitimate continuation, Like, I don't know.
Right.
Dan, was there anything, because you like the first one. Did you feel like there was anything from the first one that kind of alluded to the fact that, oh yeah, it makes sense that they would try to take it from the angle of he must be two different people?
No, I agree. I don't think there was really anything in there. It felt like he was just becoming himself because of how society treated him. And the only thing, though, I will say is it's kind of the defense that they I guess they kind of made it up because Joker says at the end there is no Joker. So he knows they made it up, but they're just trying to use that as a defense to get him off.
God, man, that's the worst scene in the movie. We
I
jumped
know.
straight to the worst scene in the entire movie.
I know.
Listen, man, the first Joker is a masterpiece. Okay, Dan, I saw your review. I know you said it's like a 9 out of 10 movie for you. Like, I am so with you, bro. It's a masterpiece of a film, and I agree. Arthur Fleck is Joker. Joker is Arthur Fleck. That's the first movie. Yeah, there are thematic elements of the dangers of untreated mental illness and what that could do to a person. Loneliness and despair, untreated, unrecognized, what that could do to somebody. Sure. But never, ever, ever were there, that I see at least, and we all agree, did we see anywhere that this was two people and he's kind of what's his name, James McAvoy, like he's like split personality? Like, no, it's not that at all. If anything, that awesome, beautiful landmark scene in the first movie as he's dancing down the stairs, people always say that's him descending into madness, becoming who he is, Joker. And then this movie goes, JK.
Apparently, whatever you truly are, if it's done hard enough, can be graped out of you.
Yeah.
And I'm using that word on purpose. Just grapes, guys. It's okay. We're just talking about grapes. Apparently, if you get graped hard enough.
Oh, got you. Yes.
You'll
because yes,
abandon.
YouTube copyright strike. Understand. Yes.
Yeah.
I understand. Which we keep saying we'll get back into this, and we will, because this is another big part of how distasteful and tone deaf that scene was. Yeah, you know what? Let's touch on that a little bit longer, shall we? Like, you know, like this is for us. This is for people that wanna watch and talk about Joker. We're gonna jump around because I want to jump around because this movie jumped around. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, like I said, we do not have to go on chronological order of the film here. Before
the grape scene, we get that scene, which I think may be my favorite scene in the movie, where he's interrogating Puddles.
Yeah.
Puddles. I forget his first name, but Puddles. Gary Puddles? Puddles. Really? And I think that scene is the best scene in the movie because it is the only time, that I feel I could have gotten on board with the theme of the movie, with what it was trying to do. It could have convinced me if it would have continued and if it would have really just held on to that scene, pushing it forward. I would have believed if it cut from that scene, that interrogation where he goes, "You were the only one that treated me nice, and now you're this serial killer. You're scaring me." And that changes Arthur. You could see like the cracks. I would have believed if right after that it cuts to the next day where he has that closing statement toward the jury saying, "I'm not Joker anymore." That would have been more believable. I would have liked that more than having a scene in between where the guards graped Joker, and then that's what makes him like, that is, first off, I think that's kind of lazy. I think like, oh, what's more shocking? We got to do something more shocking. Oh yeah, like let's do a grape scene because that's shocking. That's more believable. It's like, where's the nuance, Todd Phillips? Where's the nuance? We're not dumb here. We're not stupid. You don't have to like hand feed us. Like, we understand what he's going through. We don't need some sort of tonally deaf grape scene to try to get us to like, oh yeah, I get it now why he had to say, no, I disown him now, because man, that's a big trauma to go through. What about the trauma of letting down the only person that ever saw you as you? Like, that's big. That's human. And I feel like Todd Phillips really failed there.
Yeah. No, I could not agree more. It just, I mentioned in the chat very little, but one of the things that I did throw out was I feel like it was actually kind of like at a crescendo. Not like I thought everything was perfect up until that point. I had plenty of issues with certain things leading up to that, but I am literally so on board that was the best scene of the movie. the Gary Puddles part, and then the musical number that came afterwards, where he sings "The Joker is me."
Yes, which makes no sense.
Right, which is like, okay, it's this
The
is
best
really
musical sequence makes no sense.
exactly right. And I swear I was right there with you. If it would have stayed like that, would have been great. And but I mentioned in the chat, like it got to this point where I was like, hey, I'm digging this. I honestly don't know why people are like bashing it as hard as they are.
Right.
And as soon as he says those words, as soon as he says there is no Joker, and Harley just gets up and emotionlessly walks away, and then other people like follow after her, like, dude, it almost felt like people in the audience leaving the theater. You know, like they're just like, oh,
right.
dude, I'm done with it. And then everything just crashed and burned for me after that. It really took a 180 and just nosedived into a pile of trash.
Right. Yeah, man. I totally agree with this. I feel like I've mentioned it, but lazy. It's ultimately just such a hollow way of making a movie, of creating a story, and it really feels. And you've heard this 1,000 times if you listen to any Joker review. Like Todd Phillips was trolling the fans of the first movie, and I agree. I feel like he is. I think that Todd Phillips set out to burn down his empire just because people misunderstood what he was going for the first movie, where there are dangers of mental illness, blah blah blah, whatever you want to say, and people instead were looking up to this sort of figure that is Arthur Fleck, and Todd Phillips is like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. So what I'm gonna do now is make this completely uninformed sequel that's gonna retract so much of what was totally competent in the first movie.
Actually, it ties eerily, and God, I don't want to say anything because it would spoil so much for a different franchise, but it reminds me of Frank Herbert, who wrote the Dune books, at least the
Good
first one,
example.
right?
Good
So he
example.
wrote the first Dune book, and everybody looked at Paul Atreides as, oh my gosh, this hero. I idolize this guy. He's amazing. And he's like, no, don't be wrong. Paul's a cool guy, but like you clearly didn't get what I was trying to say here. He's a false messiah figure, and I'm
Right.
trying to show you the warnings of following someone like that, even if they are a good person and kind heart. And then he makes the next book, Dune Messiah, which that's if anybody knows how Dune Messiah goes, sorry, but you realize things don't go too well for Paul, right? That's all I'll say. It doesn't exactly have a fairy tale ending, and it feels very much in kin with that, you know, like a line.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Dan, I don't know. I mean, Dan, do you feel like by the time it got to that point that it either made any sense that it took such a turn that it did, or just your feelings, I guess, in general of like the downfall of him after he had just been risen back up again?
No, I didn't know. Like, I didn't understand why he didn't want to be Joker anymore. I some stuff is there, like the Gary Puddles scene. That's my favorite scene as well. And even it's small, but Zazie Beetz, even like him figure, oh, she was a creep. He's like mad, probably upset that she would have called the cops, you know. And then even the other witnesses, and the death of his friend in prison, which wasn't like, I didn't get that they were friends all that much. Like, they were friends, but like I think they should have put that relationship, I don't know, more into focus, maybe. To like, I don't know. Yes, it was tragic what happened to him, but I didn't feel like Arthur loved him that much. So,
I just think it's the concept of just we're all in this together.
Yeah,
I took it much more as like he's a direct supporter of Arthur. That, you know, it's almost like, look what's happening to not just me but someone else because of what I've become and what I've done.
Yeah, that's good. But no, I didn't. I thought it was random that he didn't want to be Joker anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. It's not organic, you know. And again, it's completely contradictory, not just to the first film, but to the first half, if not 3/4 of the second film.
Totally agree. That's why I keep saying this movie's so disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just so disjointed. I was gonna say, when that scene happens with him saying he's not Joker, I didn't react like the people in the courtroom. I kind of said, well, well, that's not true. And then the movie continues, and I'm like, oh wait, this is a thing. This is like part of the movie. This is like the heart of the movie. Oh, that's gross. That's nasty.
And then also let's consider like how odd is it like the immediate follow-up too. All right. So okay, like there's that moment that's already disappointing enough is the best way I'd say to put it. Then all of a sudden you get them where he has like that phone call to Harley and he's like singing a message to her and everything. And then they get to the verdict, right? Jury's listing guilty for everything. Then he starts doing his uncontrollable laugh, which it's like, all right, you're reminding me of your Joker self because you are the Joker, even though you just said you're not the Joker.
He's not.
And then the explosion happens. All right. Now, when that goes down, if he felt that he wasn't Joker, then I do kind of wonder, like, I get you're swept up in the, like, you're still trying to gather yourself and, you know, coming to as far as what's even happening. But like, then why leave the courtroom? Like, he, you know, like he seemed to kind of accept his fate at that point. So it's like, why leave and try to run away, go off with some other Joker people? I don't. And then even when it's like, oh, but he didn't stay with the Joker people, he ran away from them, right? And then he ran to Harley, which what a fucking weird coincidence that she's just sitting there waiting for him. What?
Yeah,
dude, like how long was she on those stairs? What if he never came? Anyway,
well, do we want to theorize that if it really was Harley?
I just thought it was silly because he gets to there and then he sees her, and again he seems like, hey, I escaped, let's go. Right now, it doesn't insinuate that he's trying to still be Joker per se, but it's like this all feels like you're yourself, which Joker is who you are, and again, just natural you. Yeah, you're trying to escape and run away and get a. This is all Joker, dude. How are you not Joker? But go ahead. I'm sorry. So theories about Lady Gaga on the steps.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of theories, right? And one of them is that really her? Is that really Lady Gaga? Because in that scene where he's singing to her over the voicemail, she puts a gun to her head and the scene cuts. Did she kill herself?
Then how do you? Then what purpose do you think it would serve as a scene for him to have that happen to him if she actually wasn't there and had already killed herself?
I would say, oh God, the fact that I'm defending anything about this later half of Joker is that it takes place where he descends to madness. So it means something to him. In the same apartment complex where he had the same delusions of dating Zazie Beetz' character in the first movie. So there could be some sort of alignment that just there is a significance to him, that location. And maybe it's really not her. We never see her after that. She walks away, she goes up, and that was it.
Then
we never see her again.
Why would he imagine if it was like him imagining it? And then what do you think the purpose would be imagining something so negative as an outcome? Like I don't picture that he would imagine that she's like, no, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Right.
Because otherwise, I see what you mean.
It could be because he knows that that's what happened. So like, it's him telling himself that that's what his fans are doing now that he's not Joker.
They're leaving him.
Yeah. So like, because some people say
metaphor type thing. Yeah.
Some people say Harley Quinn is the audience, us.
Sure, yeah.
Not the singing, because I don't know why, like, because she loved to sing. But
here's my thing, man. I feel like there is a lot of interesting concepts at play. Not even in the first part, but even in the parts that I don't like toward the end of the movie. Like there are fascinating concepts. I just don't like the fact that the concepts are so disjointed with what the movie was in the beginning. That's the thing. Like, do I like when people start talking about maybe it's not really her, all this whole thing about identity, he's longing for people to know him, that's why he's holding on to Joker so much. So the moment that he lets go, everybody leaves him. What a sad life, what a tragedy of a tale. And I'm like, yeah, like I get it, I understand it, but I don't like that it doesn't make sense with the first half of the movie. It's a Frankenstein of a movie, if that's the case. And because we're on the Cinema Squad channel, which is also home to the rule of 3, if I may come up with a Star Wars example here, Jace, I know you don't like The Last Jedi because of what it does to Luke Skywalker. You also know that I do like The Last Jedi because I think it makes sense because it's 30 years later. Now, this is Joker 2. Here's my example. Imagine Return of the Jedi. We get half of Return of the Jedi, and then the second half of Return of the Jedi is just The Last Jedi. You would be like, what is this disjointed Frankenstein of a movie? This makes no sense. Joker 2, ladies and gentlemen.
I gotta throw in real quick. So first of all, very funny way to mix that together. That worked really well. Second of all, it's way too ironic that you use that wording, especially I guess it was. I noticed it when you used it the first time, but I love that you ended it again that way. And you're like, it doesn't make sense. I feel not only is that right, not only is that so true, but it's like a complete slap to the line that he has from the first movie where he writes in his journal, "I hope my death makes more sense than my life."
Listen, this is the chef. This is why I keep saying this movie is art, whether you like it or not. It's what art is supposed to be.
But you know what's funny is this really is like proving that that's not true because when he puts sense, he puts money, right? And he's like, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. Okay, well, the first movie was when you were alive and kicking, bud, and that made over $1 billion. You die in this one. And it doesn't seem to be making the same as far as based on projection so far.
But why do I love that irony is so artistically inclined? I love that, but hate it at the same time.
I know. Oh my God. Oh, geez. Well, let's also, since we're already like towards the end, and I know we'll jump back to as far as other things, but because we're so close to this part. So all that happens. He admits he's not the Joker. Right? Then all of a sudden, Harley leaves him, gets taken back to I keep saying Arkham in my head, but it's not Arkham.
It's not?
No, isn't it just some like rehabilitation center or something like that?
No, I think it's Arkham. I think it's
Arkham. If it is, and I could be wrong. I didn't ever feel like I heard them refer specifically
That's
to
a good
that.
question.
It just seemed like, again, I hear like them call it like his lawyer or whatever when she's talking to him towards the beginning. She's like, you deserve to be like in a real hospital with real doctors, not in this rehabilitation center, which maybe was just the rehabilitation center of Arkham. But I don't know. It just seemed weird that they kind of strayed away from that. They also strayed away from calling it Gotham. They kept saying New York.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
They said the people in New York first. Yeah.
Now we finally know where it is.
Yeah.
Right. I guess. I don't know. Weirded me out. But
so, and also it shows that Arkham at the end of Joker 1 was all white and bright, and then in this one it's all dingy and so right. It is the same. Yeah,
unless it was just a different part of the building, I guess that maybe would. But yeah, it's a good point, right? It's just a completely different layout.
And true. Yeah, I'm remembering it now as well. Real quick before we move on, you mentioned how they mention New York far too many times, more than they do Gotham, and it just makes me believe even more in the sentiment that Todd Phillips didn't want to make a Joker movie. He wanted to make an Arthur Fleck movie about mental illness.
Yeah,
that was actually what I was saying. I said this to Eric. He doesn't agree, but I think this movie would work better if it wasn't this IP. Like,
I think I agree. I agree
because it is cool what he was doing. That he wants to show that the audience of the first movie didn't get it, and I do think some of his ideas are good, but I feel like it just doesn't work because no doubt we want to see Joker. We want to see Joker being Joker.
Heck yeah, bro! I was ready for that Harley Quinn Joker spree that never happened.
Well, and it's so annoying because it's like, for lack of better terms, he visually tickled our nuts because we got a little bit of it. And I don't just mean like them being together in the movie, which first of all, they have great chemistry. I do want to acknowledge like both of them put on good performances. I really dig Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn in this world. I think it really, really works. But they have that one scene. I love this scene where Harley Quinn sets the piano on fire. And so that they
Yes.
can try and she's like, I told you I wanted to get out of here. Like that whole scene and how they run off together. And even like, though, this was one of the perfect times where I was like, I don't care about them singing here in a good way. Like this makes sense. I don't mind. And that they were like on the verge of escaping, but also kind of weren't really going to escape ever or whatever. But that was like, this is so Joker and Harley. It really works.
Dancing in the fire in the rain. Yeah, I agree. That's another scene as well that I would say sets up what the film is going to be, because as everything's on fire and the building's burning down, you have Joker and Harley, and in the back you still hear the movie going on as it's singing. That's entertainment. It sure as heck is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So yeah, it's a shame that we never got a chance to see that fully lived out. You know, I'm even okay with the fact that there was like relationship issues with them in the film. I mean, because that's very much akin to what the real relationship is between Joker and Harley. They have a very odd relationship, to say the least. But based on the way this was going, the trajectory of how they had like introduced it to us, I thought it was going to be so much different. And I was like really looking forward to where that was going, only to have, you know, her at peak Harley moment too. Like that's what really I think was just such a kick in the groin, was it was him at peak Joker and her at like peak Harley, because she officially shows up to court all dressed up and all the makeup and shit like that. And that's when it's all like, okay, you liking this? You liking this? Cool. Fuck you.
I'm not Joker. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I didn't, for some reason, didn't piece it together, but it's true. It's at the peak where they go,
Mm-hmm.
They like, only say it's only down from here.
Yeah, like, oh, you've been enjoying the ride up on this roller coaster? You ready? You ready? It's ready. It's about to go down. I'm not even the Joker, bitch.
I'm just Arthur. Even the part when she's like, ready to give the people what you want, and then they don't give us what we want.
Oh my God, dude. It's insane.
Dan, you just threw it out. I'm so happy that you did. I have to touch on this. What do you guys feel is the definition of building a mountain?
I don't know.
So stupid.
I loved when she said it to the reporters, and they were like, "What does that mean?"
Yes. I love that they introduced that line in there. What does that even mean?
This has to be an inside joke that Todd Phillips was like, and he wrote down this as an actual line of dialogue. We're gonna build a mountain, and I feel like everybody around him is like, "What does that mean?" And he went, "Huh, that's a good inside joke. Yeah. Let's put it on," even though nobody else will understand that. But maybe it was an inside joke.
Maybe. Look, in essence, I can kind of understand, right? It very much is kind of alluding to the fact of her and Joker taking over the town, or like reaching some height of power perhaps, or something, right? Like, but that's the point, is I don't want to have to guess that type of stuff. Some things are interesting to leave to imagination. That in particular, no. If you don't give me that, it leads to the biggest downfall of her character, which again, sadly, it's not the performance. She does a great performance. It's the writing. It's the arc. Dan, you were mentioning this when you first saw it before anyone else did. Yeah. You're saying like, I wish they had more of like an arc for her. There's enough of her. They show her a lot in the film, but you never really get what her motive is. Every little element and detail that they introduce to us that makes her more intriguing is completely just left to the wayside by the end. Like the fact that she lies to Arthur about, you know, the details of her family and everything when she first meets him. And when he confronts her, she's like, "Oh, I just wanted you to like me," or whatever. And there's a bit of believability to that. But when you find out that she's also like got a degree in psychiatry, what I thought was the really cool like detail to throw into the mix.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like, okay, so maybe she's like trying to pull the strings for some reason, and you never find out why. I mean, if they would have given the why to her motive, and then maybe, just maybe, instead of how Joker usually kind of screws over Harley, they already were kind of going with an opposite angle here, but really drive that wedge of like, she's just completely playing him like a puppet to try and do something. I don't know what, but that could have been more interesting. But just with this, it's just left so unfulfilled.
My theory with that is this would need to be added, but her parents are rich, so maybe like she hates them. So she wants Joker to succeed in taking over, like, you know, killing rich people, like all that stuff. I think that would have been interesting. I did like the psychiatry line too, because I wanted Harley's origin story for a while now, and at least we got that line.
I like what they did with Harley in this movie. It's nothing like they do in the comics. It's nothing like what we know Margot Robbie's Harley to be at all. But not only did I like it, I think it makes more sense. We're so used to the Joker ends up influencing Harley to become Harley Quinn. I think in our world, Harley Quinn would be the one to influence Joker. That makes sense. She's the one with the psychiatry degree. She
Right.
could, if she had a screw loose or if she descended into madness, be the one to get Joker on her team. I just thought that concept made sense. But I'm also in agreement that as many scenes that we have her in, they're not only unfulfilling, they're a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah, and I'm in the minority. I think she's good. I did not think Lady Gaga was something to write home about.
But she was good. Like I liked her. Sure. But I don't think she was bad or anything like that. I think what it was more than anything is whether the scenes got cut or that was really her arc in the movie. It was just unfulfilling, like Jay said.
Because there's a couple clips that are cut out of the trailer, which her going up the elevator with their short hair, or down the elevator, her going up the stairs, which I'm guessing would be after Joker and her break up. You see her going actually up to the top of the stairs. So I don't know. Yeah, so she probably had a bunch of stuff cut.
Oh yeah, no, and then the part where both of them were dancing down the stairs, like we were talking about right before this started, and so yeah, no, I agree. I think that there probably is a lot like that we don't know about per se, and which makes it that much more disappointing because it's like, well, then there probably is some more that would have given us some more context to make this appreciate this more, but no, we're just left with what we got, and oh my gosh, man, it's one of those. Dan, you're right. Like, to be fair, she doesn't put on some sort of performance that's like, damn, people are gonna be talking about this. That's not even necessarily, even though I'm like completely won over. I just more so feel that way because I think she fits so well. The same way, honestly, that Margot Robbie, I feel is a perfect embodiment of the typical Harley Quinn, like what we generally speaking know her as. That works like beautifully. But in this iteration, like, it's just like how different Jokers wouldn't work in different Joker movies, right? You couldn't put Jack Nicholson's Joker into The Dark Knight. You couldn't put Heath Ledger into Batman 1989. It just wouldn't make any sense.
But you can put him here.
Well, you could. But with that being said, though, it's like with the Harleys, like Margot Robbie's Harley would not work in here, and then Lady Gaga's would not work elsewhere. But it fits really well here. And that's, I think, actually what's even more disappointing is what a wasted potential, because you have another person that does really fit the role well, like fits this mold, and then just kind of not do as much with it as you really could. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys got this. It's the writing and Harvey, but like, she must have owned that prison because she went into his solitary confinement cell and was like, the guards let me in, and she was allowed to have something in there, makeup, and then a bunch of other times she just walks kind of right through the gate.
I think, I don't think it's the rules of the world, Dan. I think you're right. I think it's just the writing. It's not good.
No.
Yeah. Like the only thing it's corrupt. Like Gotham's corrupt, so they let her in. But like, why?
I don't think it's corrupt in a good way where you can let loved ones see each other. It's corrupt in a bad way where they grape you.
Well, but it also could be corrupt in the way that she's just like, she mentioned about the rich family or whatever. We find out about that. Yeah, she could just be paying off the cops to be like, here, just take, the bunch of money and walk away and let me do whatever. And they might be like,
could have been a good arc.
Yeah,
well, right. If they would have mentioned that type of stuff, or if we would have eventually found that out, yeah, it could have made sense. I think they do that on purpose to influence the thoughts more of, do you know if she's really there or not? Like, especially the scene where they have some sexy time.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the most unrealistic of, how did you get here?
That's what I said.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, I thought she was an imaginary person at that point. I thought he was.
So Jace, for a second, I thought the most unrealistic part was gonna be with that he finished in about 3 seconds. I'm like, that's not unrealistic. But it's true, and that's what I was mentioning with Dan, where I feel like that is just one of the shortcomings of the writing. Did Todd Phillips write this script?
Yes, him and Scott, him and someone else.
Okay. But you know what I found out? is that supposedly, right, from this is what I keep hearing, is that they had a script, but on a regular basis, they would sit down, have a discussion, completely disregard the script, and decide, like, what are we going to shoot today? And come up with things.
I believe it.
It seems, yeah, very much like a plausible thing. That's, and I've heard this from multiple disconnected sources, which is what makes me think, like, okay, well, then that must be something.
Right.
Yeah, and I said, like, this just seems like a different team. This does, like, none of the, like, I don't have the impact, the shocking moments, the emotional moments, other than Gary Puddles. That was the time I felt like, oh, this is like the first one kind of.
Yeah, no, and this you could tell has a twinge or seasoning of this really does have more studio influence. Like the first one felt
You
completely
think?
like an independent project.
Ooh, I don't know.
Wait, are you being sarcastic or?
I think
Okay.
that this needed more studio interference. I think this
here's
is
what I
Todd
mean.
Phillips with the reins, and they're like, "You gave him full control."
No, I mean studio, and again, not interference, but influence. And all I mean is, like, I feel like they were. I feel like they were like, dude, we're so confident this is going to be a hit. Yeah, go ahead. What, you making it a musical? Pff, for sure. I'll tell you what. We have a couple of notes, just a couple requests, right? Because we're going to give you more money than we, ever have given anybody or that you've ever seen. So hear us out. We're going to put a little animation at the beginning. We're going to introduce it like it's Looney Tunes. Okay.
Right.
We want you at one point in the courtroom to have Arthur say, that's all, folks. Also, when he is interviewing Gary Puddles, can you make him sound like that one Rooster cartoon that back in the day, you see, I wanted to tell you about.
Foghorn Leghorn.
There you go. There you
I
go.
am so on board with you. It's not even funny, Jace. I am so on board with you. I think, especially the Looney Tune references, 100% studio influence. I am so in agreement with you. I haven't even thought about it, and I'm so in agreement with you. But I do think that this one has the least studio interference. I really think that they put all their trust in Todd Phillips after the success of Joker, which is not a small deal. That's humongous. What Joker was ever able to do in 2019 to gross over $1 billion for a controversial rated R comic book movie, like that's insane. And so they put the trust in him. And I think that Todd Phillips made the movie he wanted to make.
So it's funny you say that, and this creates another interesting discussion, which is I personally, I don't think he wanted to make this movie, man. I really don't.
Again, bro, we're so on the same page here. I don't think so either. But when he was forced to, this is the movie he wanted to make.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Then 100%. Right. Because I think it was very much of like, I don't think Joaquin wanted to either. I mean, Joaquin's never done a sequel in his life. His entire career. He's had a decently long acting career at this point. Kind of says something when you literally never do a sequel.
Never.
So yeah,
never will again.
I need Bo is a freighter.
Bo is a freighter.
Bo is terrified. Making a crossover with the Terrifier.
I love that.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, this does almost feel like it was a big middle finger to Warner Brothers in a way. And ready? Here's why I think that we could maybe even a little bit more be onto something. I didn't find this out until recently. Do you guys know what the budget of the first Joker movie was?
It was low. It was 15 or 20 million, right?
No,
it was $50 million. All right.
Okay.
Now here's the thing. It's still a pretty respectable budget, right? But that's all that you really need for what they did in that film, right? I mean, there's no CGI that I'm aware of, and there's no like extravagant explosions and nothing crazy. Makes sense, right? It could be contained within that budget. This is the interesting part, though, because Warner Brothers apparently didn't really believe in the project. They greenlit it like, yeah, you go ahead and do your thing, bud. Best of luck with that. They only put so much up for the budget. It was other private investors that put up the majority of the $50 million for the budget. So even though that film went on to gross over $1 billion worldwide, Warner Brothers didn't necessarily make as much as you would imagine from that $1 billion gross profit. So At this point, right, they kind of turn around. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to give you quadruple the budget and it's all going to be from us. So this way we reap all the rewards.
And what's the reward?
No
What
pop.
reward?
No
To have a whole bunch of people on YouTube talk about your movie because they ain't making money back.
No, that's
They're
for
not
sure.
going to.
No, I mean that's something where I've consistently heard, and this is really sad because like I wanted this to work, you know, before knowing anything as far as how it went. I wanted this to be a success. So to see that like not a lot of people are seeing it, when I went to go see it, there's barely anyone in my theater. I keep hearing people talk about that when they go, there's barely anyone in theirs.
Wow, I didn't. Okay, I'm happy you said that. Same, and I didn't know that was something that people were having the same experience. I went Saturday or Friday. Sorry, I went Friday, bro. I think there were not even 10 people in my theater, and I was in a big theater. You guys been to my movie theater when you came to Florida? We have big theaters here. Jace, like I'm talking about a theater like where we saw Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah,
like 10 people in that theater.
Mine was full, but I went to an early access fan screening IMAX.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that makes exactly more sense.
Yeah, but by
Dan,
40.
Oh, maybe you were about to say it. Yeah, the 40X. How was the audience there or attendance?
So it was actually pretty. It was more full than I expected because I, from the trailers, didn't even think this looked like it would be a good 40X experience. But like, I don't. Yeah, and then after IMAX, I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to be a good one. They don't even.
Do you feel anything during the grape scene?
Okay, let's move on.
No, I was about to say you don't even feel any thrust during the sex scene.
Hey, it's probably not long enough. By the time the motors would start running to actually do something, it would have been like, it's over already.
Yo, but it's just so sad to think how much of a phenomenon the first Joker was. It caught lightning in a bottle, and this movie did not. And guys, this is the first weekend. This is your best weekend.
Yeah.
And they made, I think, 45 million, if not high 30s. Like that, guys, this movie is a flop already.
Yeah. I know.
It's like the only life it has now is if it has some sort of viral meme like Morbin time at this point.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. You know, if anything, again, the only positive for them is it has created a lot of chatter. You know what I mean? So it means that they're being like discussed. And sadly, there is a very small, finite amount of truth to like any news is good news to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like it's better than nobody talking about you. But again, yeah, I think the sad part is if you're willing to accept that, like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's negative, people are talking about us. You're not getting the full picture here. You're not understanding that that's not the point. You don't want to just be in conversation. If you are associating yourself at any point in time with something that's negative like this, you're running the risk of people giving you another chance. Like, and people say this stuff all the time. Oh, this bad movie came out. Like, I'm giving up on this franchise. I do find that attitude to be a little bit ridiculous because you can't just judge every future project because they did one bad one. But at the same time, it's like, you still have to take into consideration if something's like how it's going to be received and how that's going to affect you.
No, I agree with you. I think what was I gonna say? Example. I was gonna give an example because sure, like all talk is good talk, even if it's negative or whatever. Like I also don't agree entirely with that because, and listen, I am one out of 8 billion other people in the world. So I have a circle. We all have our circles. Our circles aren't the reality for most people. It's just our reality. So with that being said, everybody that I have talked to Joker about who has not seen Joker are not interested in seeing Joker and have told me straight up, oh man, you saved me. I'm not watching it. So is all good talk? Is all talk good talk? No, man. You're people are not going to see your movie.
Right. Now, yeah, well, I'll put it this way. All talk can be good talk, not when you have a $200 million+ budget for a film.
Oof.
You know, that's like at that point, it's like, no, you can't be running that risk. even the $50 million budget, I still feel like it's like, that's why should we be talking about that like it's chump change? It's like you should be watching every penny of that. Like, you know, we care a lot about that. That's somebody's money and somebody wants to make that back and then some. So like, why not treat it with the delicacy that it needs to be? And then plus, you know, the funny thing is, it's not even like you're taking a risk at making it good. Like, we don't know if we make it good, is it really going to be worth it? You literally have proof. You have proof that better movies make more money like on regularly.
I love that.
It's just ridiculous, man. All right, hold on. To jump back into the film itself, right? There was another part that we were starting to kind of gear towards as far as the ending goes. And I literally mean at this point, like the ending. Okay. I'm just when he was taken to see his visitor, right? Because we have the ending, and just I guess, you know, there's already been plenty of spoilers galore. But if you don't want to know exactly how it happens, then just don't listen for a second. But he gets back into his rehabilitation center, which to me, that was already so stupid. Like, we just went full circle for no reason. He started there and then ended there for what? Like, literally for what? Hey, Arthur, you got a visitor. I knew something was weird right away because the guard was so much further ahead than him. And I don't know if you noticed, but he's like looking around the corner like, you coming? You coming? All right. And then he like dips out before he gets there. Then they go around the second hallway. And the guard, again, he's real far ahead of him. Come on. And all of a sudden, he's nowhere to be seen. When the guy popped out initially and was like, hey, Arthur, can I tell you a joke? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't remember who the fuck that guy was. The first thing that popped in my head was, who is this dude? Has he been in the movie up until this point?
That's funny.
So yeah, no, Jace, I'm the same until my second viewing. Obviously, then I knew what was going to happen. So I noticed him in it more.
Right, and
I noticed him since the beginning.
I noticed him, but I was like, who is this? And I forgot.
I had a feeling, I was like, he must have been one of the nutcases in the background for sure, right? Like, I was kind of like, okay, it has to be one of the... But I just thought it was weird that they, I don't know, went out of their way to make no significance of that character. And in a way, I guess that can almost be like a uniquely interesting choice. But that really was just odd to me. So it's like, okay, this stranger just tells him this joke. And then to have the audacity to use the iconic line from the first movie of you get what you fucking deserve. And then to just, all right, shank, however many shanks he took. And then to just watch him bleed out all in a weird way. That also was weird to me. Then it was just like, I don't know. I'm guessing it was on purpose. But the fact that the dude's just in the background, like watching as it's all happening. And just for some reason, it was just like, I don't know. They made the whole thing more awkward than it needed to be. And then as he slowly slides down, we see in the background that the dude in the back, as blurred as he may be, cuts the smile into his face, insinuating that, hey, everybody, you know how we just found out that Arthur's not the Joker? He just said it himself, right? There's the Joker. You wanted the Joker? There he is. Hey,
it's Heath Ledger.
What art? The Joker killed the Joker.
It's Heath Ledger.
You know what? Hold on. Real quick. Let's tackle that for a brief moment. I can't believe, you know how many articles I've come across where people are trying to actually make that a thing?
Come on, guys.
For
starters, it's like 1980, right? Right now.
It is 1983 in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So even if by the time, like, let's just say that The Dark Knight does take place modern time, 2008, bro, he'd be so much older than Heath Ledger is. All right. Just doesn't make any sense. Plus, are you trying to tell me there are two separate district attorneys named Harvey Dent that both get their faces fucking blown off halfway in different ways?
Yeah, because Aaron Eckhart is junior.
Yeah, right. And it just so happens he goes through the same course of events, you know, as far as like with the face. So again, that just, I don't mean to like demean anyone who likes to have fun with that stuff. It's an interesting thought, but that's just an Easter egg. Like, the other thing is this. It's also not fair to say Heath Ledger's Joker is the only Joker that has his mouth like that. That's not true. In the comics, there's plenty of iterations of him where he has that part of his mouth like that. So it's like, okay, again, it's just a cool Easter egg, nothing more, nothing less. But I don't know, guys. Just I thought it was an idea that really could have been cool. That could have been an interesting ending if the movie didn't kind of do the faceplant that it did. But what did you think? Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you-
I was fine with parts of the ending. I'm with you. I think that was a cool idea to do if the movie wasn't contradicting itself so much, and if they, I don't know. It's just, I also this is the same thing, but like how it went in on his face. I kind of wish he was smiling to go back to the line. I hope my death means more than more than my life.
That's
great. I wouldn't have minded him.
Well, he wasn't not smiling. He wasn't like wrenching in
like,
pain.
Yeah. I just thought it would be cool if he was like at peace because he died. But yeah, no, I liked parts of it. But yeah, no, it was a little abrupt. And
yeah. The ending, like this movie, which we'll use this in a few minutes once we wrap up and we get all our thoughts out of the way. The ending, like the movie, has grown on me. And what I mean is when I first saw it, I hated it. I mean, I hated it. And I was like, I just want to get out of this movie theater. What? And then now talking about it, I'm more in the camp of regardless of how I feel, regardless of, I don't like that the second half of Joker is a movie that really tries to not be about Joker. It is at least cohesive with the second half of, he's really not Joker now. And we're really just cementing it. He's not Joker. Joker was just a figure. And it was the only time that Arthur Fleck in his miserable life had the attention that he always wanted, got stripped away because for whatever reason, he denounced the Joker. These people no longer follow him. So now the Joker moniker goes beyond Arthur Fleck. So Arthur Fleck dies, but Joker lives. I get it. It makes sense with the second cohesive, like the second half. It's cohesive to that second half. It's just a shame that it's just a jumbled movie.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like it was more of an intentional choice to be like, I feel like Todd Phillips legitimately sat there and thought to himself, how do I guarantee that they won't make me do another one?
Oh, I don't think you can guarantee it. We didn't see him breathe his last breath.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. At this point, I mean, I already felt like there was no point in doing a second one. It was like you wrapped up the first one so perfectly, you didn't need to do anything else. But yeah, especially if they were to try and say like, oh yeah, can we do a third one? There was people talking about a spin-off focusing directly on Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. No, just no. She was interesting as an element within this film. I don't think it works outside of this as its own entity. I think maybe actually if you wanted it to be much more angled towards a Harley story, you should have just told this film through Harley's perspective.
Love it. Love it.
Right. And then just this way, instead of like the first film where we're really, really diving deep into the intricacies of how Arthur thinks and feels and all that type of stuff, do it where it's from an outside perspective, how somebody else views that, and then getting warped into that, and what that would be like. I guess that could have been a lot more interesting, I feel like, to dissect. But yeah, at this point, it's even if they were to be like, hey, we want you to do another one, I don't even know what they could do. And again, I feel like he did that on purpose. Like, I feel like he was just like, hey, you know what? If I kill him, there's no way we can do this again, right? So we're done here.
We don't know what Barry Allen's Flash really did in that movie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that it's really a shame because, again, cool idea. I don't mind the concept of the Joker mantle living on past one person. It kind of adds to the concept of the Joker of you don't ever really know who he is, what his true origin is, where he really came from. And this, kind of bleeds into that. But then it also just dives into like the Spider-Man conversation, right? Oh, anybody could be Spider-Man. It's just who's wearing the mask. And it's like, yeah, I guess. But like, what the fuck? I really want to watch either Peter Parker or Miles Morales. Like, those are the people that I care about, you know. And with this, you know, I can't really say it's Arthur Fleck. You know, again, Joker is much more of like, you don't really know. But it was just the way that they led up to it is the reason I can't appreciate as much the artistic value behind what they were trying to do. In essence, still cool. Like, I'll give you guys an example. I was explaining the ending to two people that I work with that they also, right, they made it clear. They're like, dude, we're not going to see that movie. I was like, so, like, if I just start spoiling certain things as I'm talking about, they were like, please, go for it. So I mentioned the ending. And when I said the ending, I was like, okay, so then he gets shanked. And then you see the guy in the blurry background cut a smile into his face. And both of them simultaneously were like, oh, like a positive reaction. Because again, saying it sounds a hell of a lot cooler than the actual execution behind it. And once more, it is simply due to the fact of what precedes that moment.
Context.
Yeah, it's amazing how very small amounts of time can just utterly ruin and desecrate everything that came before it. And it also just, again, just feels like a weird slap in the face. It's very much like they took the time to say, oh, hey, you like this guy? You do? This is a horrible human. He's a piece of shit. You shouldn't like this guy. Hold on. Let's just take some time. Sit down, okay? Let's remind you why he's a piece of shit. Also, fuck you for ever liking him. Clearly, you don't have good taste. And yeah, we're gonna just grape him, shank him, and kill him.
Yeah. I've been reading a few segments of my written review that I haven't posted yet, and talking about what you just said, Jace. This is one of the things I wrote. I said, while the character of Arthur Fleck was never meant to be a role model, stripping him of his narrative appeal and making him as pathetic as possible is quite a lazy resolution to a non-issue.
Well said. Holy shit. Very well said.
Yeah.
That was really nicely articulated, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like that hits the nail on the head, because that's the thing is I've heard some people, mind you, some people's opinions that I respect very, very much, but I've heard some people take this from the angle of some people don't seem to mind it because they were like, well, you should never be idolizing someone like that in the first place. There are some people that legitimately are happy with the outcome of this because they're like, well, yeah, like, right? Like, I don't like that society idolizes these people who are like terrible people and everything. With the literal utmost respect, what in the fuck are you talking about? I don't look at this dude like, I'm going to go do that. That's how I should be in real life.
Right.
The same way I don't go watch like a movie about something very good. It doesn't mean I'm going to walk away and instantly start doing good things with my life. It's just something that it's a good story. That's all. I acknowledge he is a terrible human being inside and out. Even with the sympathetic moments where you can't help but kind of feel for him and stuff, you still realize, no, but you're a horrible human being. Like, if you were a real person, even though I'd feel maybe bad for you to a certain degree, like, you're a horrible person. That nothing changes that. I'm not happy that he's killing people. I don't root for him in the sense of like, hey, it's good to do this. But in the case of this fictional, emphasis on the word fictional, confined story, yeah, I want there to be good development behind what makes him what he is, good, bad, or indifferent. You need that to be the case. Like, if you're just worried about how people are going to take away, you know, as far as anything from villains then just don't ever include villains in anything at all. Because the truth of the matter is, even when you don't have a story where the villain is the protagonist, people still idolize villains for decades, generations now within media.
Oh, of course. Hey, man, Disney World is making a villain's land.
Holy crap, really?
Yeah, man. They announced it at D23 back in August.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show, and like, that's cool. You can have that. But I don't think that ever means of like, so you like evil people? What are you, evil or something? It's like, no, dude, that's a character. And I just think that's a cool character, you weirdo.
I love it. That's funny, man.
Guys, was there anything else like in particular? Because I know we start off at the beginning, we just seem to kind of like dived into the deep end and went straight to the ending and everything. And I know there's a couple things mentioned as far as in between. Was there anything else like big epic things? I'll tell you what, maybe I'll introduce one real quick. Musicals, right? We didn't really say much of anything about the musical elements, right? What were your thoughts about the fact that this was basically almost a full-fledged musical?
Dan?
So when it was announced, I championed it and I defended it. I wasn't in love with the idea, but I was defending it. And then we found out it was like 14 songs, and I was like, eh. But I still defended it. And then I thought my first time seeing it, I thought there were way too many musical numbers, and it was distracting, and it took away from the plot, and they didn't really, move the story along. My second viewing, I felt that it was paced better, a little better. I still don't love the movie. It was paced better and it flowed better. But still, I just thought some of the musical numbers were too much, and they weren't really doing anything for the story. And as a matter of fact, they were interrupting it. I wanted to get back to the story.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry, Jace.
No, I was going to ask, so you seem to, from your initial reaction, feel similarly?
Oh, yeah, man. Those who know me, I love musicals. My second favorite film of all time is La La Land. I love musicals. When they announced that Joker was a musical, I remember when we were in the chat, and I was such a champion for that. I just thought it made sense just because of the dreamlike movements and mannerisms of Joker when he's in his head. It makes sense. A musical could work. But not only are they bland in this movie, not only are they plentiful. 14, you said, Dan? 14?
I think that's what they said. Yeah.
That's insane. But they also do nothing to further the plot or the characters, which is what musicals are supposed to do.
Right.
When there is a musical sequence happening, that is when you use that medium to further your plot, further develop your characters, further develop your characters' relationships with one another. But instead, what Joker does with its 14 musical sequences is the plot takes a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. And I really, really got annoyed by that, guys. It was more than anything disruptive, more than it was an inspired element of the movie. I just felt like they did it for the sake of conceptualizing inner dialogue when they didn't need to conceptualize inner dialogue, because the first movie is proof that you don't need to conceptualize inner dialogue. And the thing is, you still could have done it, and it could have been an aid, but in this movie, it was more of a crutch. And that's how I felt.
That's, again, but well put on both ends. Because, yeah, it was one of those where I'm going to basically be echoing the same sentiments, my own words. But though they were like flashy and entertaining, they felt eventually more so like they felt like the equivalent of someone taking some shiny keys, like you're a kid or something, being like, hey, 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 hey. And you can't help but just be like, ooh, like something shiny, right? And it's like, doesn't it look nice? It's like yeah, it's nice. And it's like, ooh, it's making sounds. Those sound nice. It's like it kind of does sound nice, actually. And then all of a sudden they take it away, and you can't help but just wonder if, like, because you're just thrown back into what was before them dangling the keys. And now all of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay, the keys are gone. Okay, for sure. So
I love that. I love that. Put it on a shirt. I'll buy it. Yes, Chase. Yes, I agree.
And it's sad because, again, realistically, if you were to isolate the musical moments, they're not bad. I gotta hand it to Joaquin Phoenix in the sense of, like, I didn't really know. I knew he played Johnny Cash, so I wasn't trying to knock it, but I didn't know he could, like, sing. And what I actually like, what I appreciate is that he it sounds real. Like, it doesn't sound like he's a full-blown singer. Again, I actually think that adds to the element of it. I like it. Again, way too much of it, though. Way too much. It got to the point where before I'd gone in, and I remember, Dan, you were saying about how you were like, dude, it was to the point where I started to, like, roll my eyes when I knew it was going into another one.
Yes.
And I understood exactly where that was coming from, because, yes, there were just moments where it's very well executed within, like, just the normalcy of how they're shooting it, and then just musical. And it's like, hold on, wait. Well, just if you want to, that's fine, but hold the fuck on for a quick sec. Get back to what we were just doing, right? That was good. You were getting somewhere. And again, it's John, like you were saying, it doesn't progress stuff past that point. So even though it's like they full halt, hey, we're going to distract you by jumping into song, I would be at least forgiving of that if the song ended up continuing whatever it was that was being discussed or whatever was going on. But we don't get any sort of internal perspectives. The songs themselves, though, again, beautiful songs, I guess, right, are just like completely random in the sense of none of the lyrics that I was able to pick up tie in directly to what is happening in the story. They're just more so songs that have the word Joker in them. So I just didn't really get it. Part like the one where he's tap dancing. Okay, so the one where like Lady Gaga's on the
mountain, the Build a Mountain song.
So, okay, like that, I think was showing the most vocal capabilities from Lady Gaga. So it was like an impressive, like singing performance. And, and it's like, okay, to see the way that Joaquin Phoenix was getting really into the tap dancing stuff and just giving it his all. It's like, I mean, dude, again, for entertainment's sake, sure. And if you just showed me that by itself, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. What's this from? But it's shoehorned into the film at such a random moment. There's no meaning behind it, and then it just goes back to the story, and you're just kind of like, okay, that was like a commercial, I guess. What did we do that for? Like I said,
it was a commercial.
The only one that I actually feel was a very appropriate, and I shouldn't say this, there were a couple of appropriate songs. Like there was a couple of moments between him and Harley that I actually think it made a lot of sense that they were singing. Him leaving the voicemail to Harley, I think it made a lot of sense that he was singing there. That actually, like, I get it. And the only other one, though, the only other singing that like wasn't taking place in real life, because I also thought that was weird that some singing was really happening, other singing wasn't. So aside from those couple of interactions between them with real singing, the only not real singing or not real musical that was happening in real life that I enjoyed was the one we mentioned about The Joker Is Me. Because during that scene, I started to feel like, and I understand there's going to be plenty of people, for what it's worth, I already, you're preaching to the choir if you're going to say like, dude, he's not the Joker though. I know. I'm fully accepting of that. Like at no point did I expect him to turn into the regular Joker. I understood that from the first film. That's what made me appreciate the first film more, was hearing Todd Phillips just straight up admit, hey guys, this is not the I'm going to go rob a bank Joker and then run away from Batman. Like, this is a different story. Cool. Okay. With all that being said, during that scene with Gary Puddles and that musical, The Joker Is Me, he started to not only come into his own so much that it reminded me of how he was at the end of the first film. He started to evoke like, dude, you're acting like the Joker. The Joker. Right? Like the way he was moving around and stuff, and like just the way he was like beating on people in that musical number, what he does with the gavel before he starts beating the judge, everything. I was like, oh my God, this is like really, really working. And you didn't need to go full-fledged cartoon comic book Joker, right? You don't need to get there, but it's okay for him to evoke those certain things because you're trying to tell a different interpretation of that character, which means you're obligated to have some sort of connective tissue.
Yeah.
I feel like, right? So it's just odd that they do that. And as we had already kind of mentioned, so without being too repetitious, but it's odd that they do that. They get the best musical number out of all the weird shit that's been happening. They get him to peak Joker, and then all of a sudden they want to be like, but is he actually the Joker? We gotcha, didn't we?
Todd Phillips really thought he was cooking, man, but he wasn't.
I know. And that's actually what's weird is I thought like he almost kind of sort of was cooking up until that point. And then all of a sudden it's just like, And but then it's almost like the audience gets a chance to realize like, ooh, wait, we just snap back into reality and we just now understand you never turned the stovetop on. We've actually never been cooking this whole time because of what you did.
Yeah. But you almost did. You almost cooked.
Yep.
So let's talk about that.
You almost Gordon Ramsay'd this shit.
Almost.
Not trying to beef up the segment too much. Again, not like it was perfect through and through up until that point, but could have been a lot more forgiving if it didn't end the way that it did. So okay, we got the musical stuff on in there. Anything else?
Nah.
No, not right now. No.
Well, all right.
I'm ready for closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, then in that case, John, kick us off with some closing thoughts.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Listen, I have a relationship with this movie in the last few days. In no way can I say like, man, I love this movie. And when I was mentioning that it's growing on me, I'm not saying like, man, like I thought it was bad. Now I think it's low-key masterpiece. I'm not saying that either. I don't think I can. But I will say this, like, I applaud Todd Phillips. I will applaud him because I do think that Joker Folie is art. Like it's not only art in a cinematic and technical way, because I do think this movie is gorgeous, man. Gorgeous. But in a creative sense too. Like I have many gripes, but those gripes all fell on me in different ways. And that's what art is, right? We always say art when things are masterpieces, like when things are Dune Part 2, art. But you know what? Joker Folie also art. So yeah, he went out of his way to do what he wanted to do, and whether I thought it was outright nonsense or a beautiful mess, he has my interest and he has my respect. And that's my closing thoughts.
Fair enough. All right, well said. And yeah, right. Art is subjective, and because of that, sometimes it can be perceived as not that great, or amazing, or anything in between. It's not a complete, black or white type thing. There's a large spectrum, if you will. And yeah, so that's fair. That's very fair. Dan, how about yourself?
So I have to get going, like now. But I don't.
Oh, I thought you were not going to give closing thoughts and just be like now. All right, so bye.
Well, no, I mean, it really is. But it grew on me my second time, but not enough to like put it above. I don't know. It's like it's good. Like I do applaud him for doing something different. And it was well acted. It looked good. But I don't know. It was just a letdown. It wasn't that much of a letdown because I wasn't that excited for it actually, even though I loved the first one. But it was still a letdown.
Well, I can't disagree with that. It was very evident on my face. If any of you guys could have seen my face during the last chunk of the movie, you would have been able to tell, like, Jace, you do not look like a happy camper. It was the first thing that Nasim responded to me with when she, like, the movie was done and the credits were rolling and stuff. She looked over and she was like, "What happened that you didn't like?" And I feel bad because I had mentioned this before. She is love you, babe. She's so much more forgiving on films than I am. And it doesn't mean that like I can't just enjoy something either, but I'm so analytical. You know what I mean? She's just very much of like, no, like I had a good time. And I am happy that she did. To be fair, one of the songs got her to tear up.
Really?
I feel bad. I can't even remember which one, but it was one of the ones where it was just Joker and Harley, like a more intimate moment with them, if you will. And it was like a nice moment, So like I can't blame her. With that being said, as far as like an overall, it's not fair to dismiss the performances. They're great performances. At the end of the day, there is not one person that I thought didn't act well in the movie. And that's nice because a lot of times, like, that's what one of the downfalls could be is like, oh, this would have been good if this person could have just acted well, right? So great acting for sure. As far as like the way it's shot, John, you mentioned it's beautiful. It is. It looks very well made. And I think that there's actually a lot more depth to the artistic value of how it looks. And I don't just mean the way the musical numbers are set up and everything. I mean some other stuff that like I would be going off into another rant if I started mentioning it. But point is, artistically, like it looks very well made. You can tell that there was like a lot put into the production of this film. However, it is fair that if you like the first one, if you love the first one like myself, I wouldn't say don't watch this, but I would say be prepared to almost, willing to accept almost that this may not be considered like canon for yourself. Like I look at this as like, okay, cool. Like I saw it and I acknowledge it's real. I'm not going to be one of those where like, oh, it didn't actually happen. But at the same time, it's just not really like, this is not it for me. The first movie is, and I'm okay with like kind of just accepting that in ways in my mind, that will be left alone as like an isolated film. Should you go see it still? Yeah, I think you should make a judgment for yourself. I don't think you should always just go off of what other people are saying and decide to not see a movie entirely. But I wouldn't be surprised if you'd waited until this one was like available for streaming or something like that. You know, that wouldn't surprise me too much. But yeah, overall, as far as definitely some things that I enjoyed, what I did like, I liked quite a bit. Unfortunately, what I disliked, I really disliked, and it is grown more in the disliking field as far as like the things, in other words, that I saw as bad, unfortunately have just become worse over time. But it creates a lot of discussion. Just to draw back to the beginning of our conversation, guys, you know, it's almost nice that at least it gave us something to talk nearly an hour and a half about, you know, have that go by in a blink of an eye. So
for sure.
With all of that, that I feel like is a pretty good closing for every one of us. So everybody, right, is a very brief bringing this to a close. Thank you so much, right, for everyone. I was kind of poking and peeking a little bit. I don't have control over anything. So as far as everyone in the chat, thank you so much. You know, we were just flying off the hinges with some stuff. So thank you for the sidebar conversation. Please know at least we still just appreciate you being here and everything. And leave some comments below as far as afterwards if you want to try and keep the conversation going, I was going to say. For anyone watching afterwards, appreciate if you made it this far. Thank you so much. If you have, then we'd really appreciate as far as if you dropped a like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out the Cinema Squad on Instagram as well, because we've always posted as far as what we're going to be doing over there. And that's about that. Oh, and all of our individual channels. You know, just go like and subscribe to every single thing now because you watched us and we said so. So I guess you have to.
Yes, sir. Right there.
All right. With that, take care, everybody. It was great chatting with you. It won't be long till we see you again. Check out the Halloween costume party live stream coming up soon. And until next time,
let's get it.
Take care.
Sing hallelujah. Come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment. Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment.
Are we still live?
No, now we should be ending.